Good morning, students. Today, let me continue with the chapter which we have discussed in the last class. That is about concept of ecosystem, part 2. Let me go through the first slide. The biosphere consisting of the following things like hydrosphere, ecosphere, atmosphere, and lithosphere. So, as you observe in this slide, biosphere is the largest one, under which comes the hydrosphere, ecosphere, atmosphere, and lithosphere. Coming to the structure or the components of an ecosystem, the term structure refers to the various components. So, the structure of an ecosystem explains the relationship between the abiotic, that is non living, and the biotic, that is living components. An ecosystem has two major components, again, biotic components and abiotic components. Coming to biotic components, the living organisms or the living members in an ecosystem collectively form its community called biotic components, or otherwise known as biotic community. Examples: plants, that is producers; animals, that is consumers; and microorganisms, decomposers. Members of components of an ecosystem, that is classification of biotic components. The members of biotic components of an ecosystem are grouped into three major categories based on how they get food. Say producers, which are nothing but the plants; consumers, all types of animals; and decomposers, all types of microorganisms. Coming to producers, which are also otherwise known as autotrophs, producers synthesize their own food themselves through photosynthesis. Example: all green plants and trees. Coming to photosynthesis, photosynthesis is the basic process that can be responsible for the manufacturing of food for this entire type of living organisms. The green pigments called chlorophyll present in the leaves of plants converts carbon dioxide and water in the presence of sunlight into carbohydrates. So the reaction is summarized as follows: 6CO2 plus 12H2O is equal to 6C6H12O6, that is a carbohydrate, plus 6 molecules of oxygen and 6 molecules of water. So this process is called photosynthesis. Students, you must have already studied this thing in your PU classes and even in high school itself. So this is the elaborate diagrammatic explanation of the process of photosynthesis. As you observe in the picture, the chlorophyll gets excited in presence of sunlight, that is the solar energy, and once it gets excited, it combines with carbon dioxide and water, and it results in the production of a sugar or the carbohydrate, during which there will be the liberation of oxygen molecule, which is being used by all other living organisms of this earth, and these molecules are again ready to accept some more molecules of photons or the sunlight, and they are ready to cook the food again. Coming to consumers, which are also collectively called heterotrophs because they cannot manufacture their own food and they entirely depend upon producers, that is plants. Example: plant eating species, which includes all types of insects, rabbit, goat, deer, cow, etc. Let me go through the classification of consumers now. Consumers are further classified as primary consumers, that is herbivores, which are also called plant eaters. So primary consumers are also called as herbivores. They directly depend on the plants for their food, so they are called plant eaters. Examples: insects, rat, goat, deer, cow, horse, etc. So all types of herbivores are grouped under this primary consumers. Now coming to secondary consumers, which are also called primary carnivores, otherwise known as meat eaters. And these secondary consumers or primary carnivores, they feed on primary consumers and they directly depend on herbivores for their food. Example, frog, cat, snakes, foxes, etc. Now, tertiary consumers, which are also called secondary carnivores, and these are also again referred to as meat eaters. And tertiary consumers or secondary carnivores, they feed on secondary consumers and they depend on the primary carnivores for their food. Examples, tigers, lions, etc. So all carnivorous animals comes under this. Now coming to decomposers. Examples, microorganisms like bacteria and fungi, and these decomposers attack the dead bodies of producers and consumers and decompose them into simpler compounds. During the decomposition, inorganic nutrients are released. The inorganic nutrients, together with other organic substances, are then utilized by the producers for the synthesis of their own food. Now, coming to abiotic or non-living components. The non-living components, which includes both physical and chemical of the ecosystem, collectively form a community called abiotic components or abiotic community. Example, climate, soil, water, air, energy, nutrients, etc. Coming to physical components in the beginning, they include the energy, climate, raw materials, and living space that the biological community needs. They are useful for the growth and maintenance of its members. Example, air, water, soil, sunlight, etc. Now coming to chemical components, they are the sources of essential nutrients. Examples, organic substances, which includes proteins, lipids, carbohydrates, etc. And inorganic substances, which includes all micro and macro elements and few other elements. Coming to function of an ecosystem, to understand clearly the nature of ecosystem, its functioning should be thoroughly understood. The function of an ecosystem is to allow the flow of energy and cycling of nutrients. Now coming to the types of functions. Functions of an ecosystem are of three types: primary function, secondary function, and tertiary function. First, primary function. The primary function of all ecosystem is to manufacture the starch, that is through photosynthesis. And secondary function, the secondary function of all ecosystem is to distribute the energy in the form of food to all consumers. Now, tertiary function. All living systems died at a particular stage, and these dead systems are decomposed to initiate third function of ecosystem, namely cycling. The functioning of an ecosystem may be understood by studying the following terms, that is energy and material flow, food chains, food webs, and food pyramids. The details of these aspects we will be discussing it in next class. Now coming to some abiotic factors, the first one being edaphic factor. You know the term edaphic refers to soil. The factors which relate to structure and composition of soil are called edaphic factors. Soil is a very complex medium. A good fertile soil contains mineral matter of about 40%, organic matter of about 10%, and water of about 15%, and air of about 25%. Mineral matter in the soil occurs in the form of particles. Soil can be studied under physical and chemical properties. Now coming to soil profile, probably you must have heard of this. The vertical section of the earth crust, that is up to 6 feet, is referred to as soil profile, and structure, thickness, consistency, texture, porosity, color, chemical composition. Soil profile vary from place to place. and it depends upon climate, vegetation, and parent rock, and topsoil thicker in forest. Now coming to a brief look about some layers of soil, which is referred to as horizons, and there are about 6 horizons, like O horizon, the thing which you can observe on the right hand side of this slide with pictorial representation. So O horizon, it includes organic horizon or the litter zone, A horizon, which is nothing but topsoil, B horizon, nothing but subsoil, C horizon, which is also called withering rock, and D horizon is again referred to as withering rock, and R horizon, which is referred to as the bedrock, from which all other remaining layers will originate. Now the details of soil profile. The first one being O horizon, which is called litter zone. The fresh or partially decomposed organic matter. It is rich in saprophytic fungi, bacteria, protozoa, and it undergoes changes depending upon soil temperature and moisture, and it is present in forest, absent in desert, grassland, and cultivated land. Coming to A horizon, it is a topsoil. It is a zone of elevation, that is leaching, and it is further subdivided into A1 horizon, A2 horizon, and A3 horizon, the details of which is being displayed in the slide. Now coming to B horizon, it is a zone of elevation, that is collection of materials, and details of that B horizon is also being shown in the slide, and it is further subdivided into 3 subdivisions, B1, B2, and B3. Then coming to C horizon, it is a uh, thick and big layer which contains large masses of withered mineral materials. It is divided into zone G, zone CC, and zone CS. And then there will be CCS zone, which is characteristics of grassland, and D horizon, the rocks in active withering state. Now the last one, R horizon, which is called the bedrock. It is the lowermost layer and the parental rock from which the layers of soil are going to be derived. Now coming to soil structure or the texture in a brief manner. So it is a various combination of different sizes of mineral particles which form the soil structure, and there will be a coarse textured soil which is called light soil, and there will be a fine textured soil which is called heavy soil. And the components of different types of particles and their size is being displayed here in the slide, and the different textures based on their particle sizes. And the most important thing is the soil texture. It plays a crucial role for nutrient supplies, aeration, root development, and moisture content. Now coming to soil structure again, the arrangement of soil particles in earth crust is called soil structure. Soil structure is influenced by texture, air, moisture, and organic matter, and there will be the different types of aggregates can be seen, like granular, platy, blocky, columnar, prismatic, single grained. So the details of which is being shown in the slide on the right hand side. Now some physical properties of soil, like density, porosity, permeability, soil temperature, soil atmosphere, and soil water. You know what is density is? It depends on the extent of withering and particle arrangement. Porosity is the space between soil particles in a given volume, and permeability determines the movement of water through pore spaces. It is higher in loose soil and lower in compact soil. Then about soil temperature, it is influenced by soil color, texture, and water, and also by altitude and slope. Now the last one, soil atmosphere. It contains 3 main gases, that is oxygen, carbon dioxide, and nitrogen. And this composition of different gases, they are different from atmospheric air, with more carbon dioxide, moisture, and less oxygen, and influenced by temperature, wind, rainfall, and pressure. Now about soil water. Students, you must have heard about the different aspects of soil water. All the water that is available in the soil is called soil water. Soil water acts as solvent for many minerals and organic materials. It maintains the texture of the soil and it supports soil organisms. And there are following types of soil water can be seen, like gravitational water, hygroscopic water, capillary water, combined water, water vapor. So these are the different types of soil water. And with reference to the soil water content, there is a terminology that is being commonly used, what is known as field capacity. It is the amount of water that the soil can hold after gravitational drain off. Then wilting coefficient, the percentage of water left at the time when plant permanently wilts, that is dry. The total water present in soil is said to be Hollard, and the water absorbed by plant is called Cassard, and the remaining water is called Accord, the details of which is being shown in the picture. Now coming to environment, that is natural one. The environment is the aggregate of all those things and set of conditions which directly or indirectly influence not only on the development or growth and quality of life of individual organisms but also the communities at a particular place. Environment includes four factors like climatic factors, edaphic factors, physiographic factors, and biotic factors. First one, climatic factor. Climate is traditionally defined as the variability of relevant atmospheric variables such as temperature, precipitation, and wind. Climate can thus be viewed as an aggregate of weather. There are the following factors which are present in any climate significantly. The first one is light, temperature, precipitation, humidity, air and atmosphere. First one, light. Sun provides us with solar energy which could never come to an end, and it is a one type of energy which is said to be renewable again and again, and there is no end to it until the sun is available for us. Solar energy can be used to generate electricity for heating, for running machines, by generating power, and for other domestic purposes. And as sunlight will never run out of stock, one should use it as an alternative for non renewable resources like coal and petroleum. Then, temperature, the degree of hotness or coldness of a body or environment, a measure of the average kinetic energy of the particles in a sample of matter expressed in terms of units or degrees designated on a standard scale. The degree of heat in the body of living organisms is usually about 37 degrees Celsius, or in other words 98.6 degree Fahrenheit, that is in humans. Effect of temperature on the environment. There are two effects of temperature are found in the environment. They are: temperature has effect on growth and development of the species. Temperature has effect on the distribution pattern of species in different places. Then comes the precipitation. The quantity of water retained in the atmosphere is called the vapor and is needed for precipitation. Formation of vapor is depend on temperature and wind. Vapor increases in the atmosphere if the temperature rises and pressure decreases. Vapor production continued up to saturation point of the atmosphere, that is at certain temperature and pressure. The maximum water laden air is called saturated atmosphere. At saturation point, if the temperature is lowered, the water holding capacity of atmosphere is reduced, which causes the condensation of water vapor in the form of raindrop, dew, frost, sleet, snow, etc. This is the formation process of precipitation. Now coming to importance of precipitation, rain is the only one source of water to the water bodies, and rainfall is important for soil moisture, and soil moisture is important for agriculture, soil organisms, soil reaction, etc. Finally, it is essential for all living beings, including plants and microorganisms of this planet. Another name of water is life, and the total rainfall, especially the distribution of rainfall throughout the year, is one of the leading features of climate. Now, about humidity. The water vapor present in air is called humidity, and according to Penck, an ecologist, the word climate has classified based on the evaporation and precipitation ratio of a place. Like arid, it is characterized by the condition in which evaporation is greater than precipitation. Most arid climates surrounding the equator. These places include most of Africa and parts of South America, Central America, and Australia. So these zones are said to be arid. Then, second one, arid humid. When evaporation is more or less equal to precipitation, West Africa, India, parts of Mexico, small parts of Pakistan, South Africa, Asia, North America, etc. comes under this arid humid zone. Then about humid zone, when evaporation is lesser than precipitation, humid climates normally lies on the southeast side of all continents, generally between latitudes of 25 and 40 north, and tend to be located at coastal or near coastal locations. Now about atmosphere and air. A thick gaseous envelope surrounding the earth is called atmosphere, and atmosphere is divided into 5 different layers or zones, which thing I have already told you in the last class, like troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, ionosphere, and exosphere. Atmosphere and air. Air is a mixture of different gases. It is an inexhaustible natural resource which is essential for the survival of all the living organisms on earth. Air present in atmosphere contain majority of the nitrogen, that is about 79%, oxygen, that is about 20.94%, carbon dioxide 0.032%, and other gases 0.028%. Now about importance of atmosphere and air. Atmosphere filters sunlight reaching the earth. It affects climate and serves as a reservoir of elements essential for life, for example oxygen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, etc. Air is also important elements of the environment, and scientific studies have indicated that a normal human being requires about 250 to 265 kgs of air per day. Air is also necessary to grow crops, support animal life, and is a medium for the sound waves to travel. Wind is a source of renewable energy. Now last one, biotic factors. All living being of the world is called biotic factors, and the biotic factors include both plants and animals and even the vegetation, and any activity of the living organism which may cause marked effects upon vegetation in any way is referred to as abiotic effect. Now the last one being physiographic factors. Physiographic factors are those which are introduced by the structure, conformity, and behavior of the earth's surface, and by topographic features such as elevation and slopes, silting and erosion, lowland or highland. The outer structure of the earth's surface is called physiographic factors. So this is all about today's class, students. So let me stop at this level and continue in the next class.